Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us.
Looking at the world of food and also every living being on the planet, everyone needs to exist to have nourishment, and it takes bees to do that. And most of us don't really realize what a busy bee is all about until you start learning about the importance of bees as pollinators and taking care of all living beings on the earth, because we're all connected. And we have someone who's a true expert who's going to be talking about this. This is Kimberly Mahalik. She is president of the Maryland State Beekeepers Association. And we're going to be talking about the importance of honeybees and the challenges of urbanizing societies. And Kim, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, I'm looking at this logo that you have, and the beehives that we're going to be showing everyone through this program really don't look like this. So tell us a little bit about the Beekeepers Association, its importance, but also the metamorphosis from this beehive unto where we are today.
Well, first we'll start with the beehive that you're looking at. That is a skep, spelled S-K-E-P, and they're woven from grasses, and that was the traditional way of keeping bees through the early years until Lorenzo Langstroth came up with a removable frame hive. And that's when you started with the square boxes or rectangular boxes that you're more used to seeing today. That skep was a wonderful thing for beekeepers, but not nice to the bees, because the only way you could get the honey out was by killing all the bees in the skep. So they would kill them, and then they would take out all of the honeycomb that was within it. It wasn't a reusable hive frame. So that's a skep. It's historical, and the background is the red state of Maryland, of course.
Right. Now, looking at your association, tell us why it's so important, and then we want to move right into the slides, because you have wonderful images of what it is that you're doing and how you're doing it. So let's talk about the association, and then we're going to move forward.
Okay. Maryland State Beekeepers Association was founded in 1908. It was started with the express purpose of training, teaching, and education of beekeepers and continuing education of beekeepers, and maintaining a presence in order to influence legislators to make sure that we were advocating appropriately for honeybee keepers in the state.
Yeah.
So that is our goal, and that's what we strive to do at all times.
That's absolutely fantastic. Looking at the bees, it's amazing how small they are, and yet how wonderfully important they are as far as, you know, life on Earth. I mean, it's we're not really exaggerating the importance of bees. So why is the bee so important?
The bee provides several benefits for humans. One of the most important is its ability to do pollination services. So that pollination allows us to have the fruits and vegetables that we eat today. So I'll give an example. A cucumber needs 8 to 10 visits from a honeybee or other pollinator, and for the most part it's honeybees, in order to make a cucumber. So
Amazing.
that's 8 to 10 visits from individual bees in order to pollinate for a single cucumber. And we can't get that kind of pollination service from anything other than bees. They have found that bees do literally increase the profitability for farmers on the order of threefold if they have good pollinators present for them. So that would be your apples, your cherries, your pear trees. And they've tried replacing bees with humans in China, and they're not as effective. The bees do a better job.
Now,
So,
looking at the queen, why is the queen so important? And
the queen,
why do they protect the queen so, completely?
they have to protect the queen. The queen is the center of the colony or collection of bees in that hive. The queen is the only means by which reproduction occurs. So that queen is laying between 1,500 and 2,000 eggs a day during brood rearing season. And that provides all of the workers of that beehive or that bee colony. So she's really important. And you'll notice in the picture that you're looking at, the bees are all surrounding her. That's her retinue. Those are the bees that provide for her. They feed her, they clean her, they groom her, they keep her happy. She is simply there to be an egg-laying machine. And she will lay eggs for the duration of her lifespan.
Yeah, it's just amazing, just the native intelligence of all the living beings on Earth. And we're really not sure how they do all that. But looking at the pollination process, this is a beautiful image. Tell us what's actually happening here, Kim.
That is an image that is of a bee on a cherry tree in Washington, D.C., actually. And it is, the bee goes from plant to plant. It collects nectar because it needs the nectar in order to survive. That provides the carbohydrate food source for the hive. So it'll suck up nectar from the bottom of the blooms. But it will also collect pollen from the anthers. So the yellow anthers sticking out at the top of a plant. The honeybee is surrounded, or covered, I should say, instead of surrounded, is covered with plume rose hairs. And these hairs actually are static, so that the pollen is attracted by static energy onto the bee. So they're collecting pollen, they are taking the nectar, and by going for the nectar, they're then providing that pollen to the next flower as they go from flower to flower. So this is how honeybees work, and other bees also work. Remember, we have 12,000 different bees in the United States, so that's an important number. In the state of Maryland alone, we have 489 species that have been documented.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Looking at the hives that we have here, this is going to this new box form so that you can, we'll show how you extract the honey and allow the bees to continue. But why the various settings for the hives? Because this is in a very natural setting. It's very beautiful. What are we looking at, and how do we need to read this as what the bee sees?
What the bee sees is, in this particular picture, a water source, which is the pond directly behind. They need to have a water source, but that could be a dish with rocks in it. The bees need to see a lot of forage. So in this case, it's surrounded by hardwood forest, which in Maryland has a lot of black locust trees, tulip poplar trees, American holly, which is really a favorite source for us here. And we're lucky enough to have two tupelo trees in this area. And tupelo trees make delicious honey. So, by the way, the bees don't care if they're in a beautiful location like this, and this is one of my favorite outyards, and I'll admit it, because it's just gorgeous, or if they're on a rooftop, or if they're on your back deck.
Could
The
be
bees
anywhere.
care what kind of forage is available. They can be anywhere. This is a backyard beekeeper, and you'll notice different sized boxes because there's different sized colonies. So an established colony with a queen that has been around for more than a year has multiple boxes. So you'll notice the blue boxes on the bottom with the purpley pink on top. That means that particular hive is collecting honey for human consumption because the hive is much larger than it needs to be just for the bees themselves. The smaller hive right next to it, which is yellow on the bottom with white on top, is what's called a nucleus colony. And that is a small new colony made with a brand new queen this year. And that allows us to perpetuate a line of good queens. And it allows us to keep our apiaries safe over the year as we fight through all of the obstacles within beekeeping.
Yeah, and now
So
there's a lot.
this is a backyard beekeeper.
So looking at the honeycomb and the honey itself, you're talking about this was an invention. And so it's a way that you can actually extract the honey. Tell us how this actually works.
The picture that you're looking at there is cut comb honey. That's very special honey. Cut comb honey is honey that does not have any foundation or frame wiring in it. That is completely made by bees. It is closed with beeswax on the top. That's the white that you see. And over each individual cell, and each cell on both sides contains honey. So this is provided to humans for consumption as cut comb honey. The frame that is being held up could have a foundation placed in it or wires placed on it. So the foundation could be plastic or beeswax that the bees could build on. And if it has foundation in it, it's put into what is called an extractor, which through centrifugal force will cause the honey to come out. We cut off the beautiful beeswax cappings on the top of the honeycomb cell, and we spin it so quickly that the honey comes out.
I see. Now, this is beautiful honey that you have here. Tell us the difference among the colors that we're looking at as far as the source of this honey.
Okay, the source of this honey here is literally from bee colonies in a single apiary. An apiary is where you keep your hives. Those were the 5 colors that were extracted that year. So, and I love this shot. Each color is representative of different nectar sources. So we know that the one on the far right has a reddish hue to it. It is tulip popular for the most part. We know the one to the far left is very clear, light yellow. That is probably black locust, which is the majority of the honey crop in the state of Maryland. And the ones in between are mixtures along with the other types of nectar sources, such as American holly, such as flowers, vegetable gardens, blueberry bushes. We have blackberry bushes surrounding our hives because blackberry honey is absolutely delicious, but it's just all the different sources. So the only difference between colors of honey are the nectar sources if you're dealing with real honey from a real beekeeper.
That's fantastic.
And
now
it's
we're going to have
important.
to
Some
go
people
out.
think
We're going to have to go out on this because we're running out of time. So I'm going to leave this image up. Why is it so important that we protect the bees and allow them to provide honey to humans, but also the pollination? And you've got about 20 seconds to do that.
bees are an important part of the environment. They pollinate plants that other animals don't. And we need that diversity of plant life on our planet. So we need to protect the bees. They're the canaries of the environment for us.
Thank you very much for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. We're talking about bees and beekeeping, and this must certainly be one of the most green of all green businesses and jobs on planet Earth. Something that's important since the beginning of time, and bees evolved on the planet to take care of and literally all other living beings, including humans. We have Kimberly Mahalik. She is the president of the Maryland State Beekeepers Association. We're going to talk about supporting beekeepers through education, mentoring, and outreach. And Kim, welcome to the EmeraldPlanet TV.
Thank you very much.
Looking at the association that you have, the Maryland State Beekeepers Association, why is it so important to have such a support network for beekeepers?
The MSBA allows us to ensure that we can get successful beekeeping best practices to the members of our state as fast as possible. And that allows us to support them and to help them be successful. And that's important.
Now, looking at this older photograph, this goes back in time. I know you've had an affiliation with the University of Maryland, which is the cooperative extension for Maryland, and the land-grant University of Maryland. Tell us a little bit of the history behind that, going back to its very origin, and why that is important to the beekeepers.
The association was founded in 1908 at a location at the University of Maryland. It started with approximately 100 beekeepers. We're now up to 1,000 registered beekeepers or members of our club. The picture that you're looking at right now are the original founders from that meeting. And you'll notice they're men. It's a nice manly shot of very important looking men who were beekeepers at that point in time.
And that's very important very important for the community. But at the same time, you really reached out, and great diversity among the members that you have in all different manners. But looking at the beekeepers, they come from many different backgrounds. Why such diversity as far as backgrounds? But the common thread, of course, is beekeeping.
The beekeepers that we have now range in age from teenagers all the way through into their 90s. And the ease of being able to handle hives, you can have 1 or 2 hives in your backyard. That used to be typical. It's starting to happen again with smaller beekeepers. And we have a lot more women and men in a more equal number in the state of Maryland in particular. The shot you're looking at is a group of us that were at a Eastern Apiculture Society meeting that were from the state of Maryland, and that's our state t-shirt, the yellow one.
Right. Now, I'm not sure exactly what this is. I have an idea. But you're looking at many different ways of supporting the beekeepers. And so we're going to go through some of these different ways of doing that.
Absolutely. This is new technology. This is the use of an infrared camera to look at a beehive during the winter to see that it's alive. The bright spot that you see in the center of the box means that's the cluster of honeybees cuddled together for warmth and generating heat around the queen during the middle of the winter cold, excuse me. So it's new technology. This is an outreach picture. This shows a booth that you would find at a fair or at a community festival talking about beekeeping. And we outreach to our communities to talk about what beekeepers can do and the ways that you can help the honeybee and other pollinators in the state.
Now, looking at the center note of this honey, that seems to really attract a lot of people. And I guess that's a good recruitment tool as far as getting new members. So how does honey really relate to the public, and how do they feel about honey? Is this something that's universal? It's very warm. How does this all work?
Most people look at honey as being the greatest thing from the honeybee. It is the only insect that makes food for humans, and the food is absolutely delicious and comes in many forms. So if you'll see here, this is a shot from a honey show, excuse me, for beekeepers. And it's mead, it's different flavors of honey, it's creamed honey, it's straight liquid honey, and the liquid honey goes in a variety of colors. The back corner display is from light yellow through black, each color being a different nectar source. But that's all honey produced in that state.
Now, having the seminars, why are seminars so important for your beekeepers?
For new beekeepers, one of the most important ways to be successful is to take a short course to introduce you to beekeeping. Beekeeping isn't something that's, there are a lot of complicating issues with beekeeping, and we want to make sure you're successful. You take the short course, and more importantly, you find out about the community that's available to help you.
Mhm.
So this is a short course being taught by David Clark, teaching these people who are potentially new beekeepers.
I see. So you're actually recruiting people on a constant basis to come in and really look at the idea of being beekeepers then. Now, this is, I thought, a very interesting photograph. What are we looking at here? And why is this up close and personal relationship with bees and honey so important?
This shot is a group of brand new beekeepers who've just finished their short course, looking and going through a hive for the first time with an experienced beekeeper. So for many of them, it's the first time they've actually put on their gear and approached a hive with 50,000 stinging insects in it. So they're learning how to look at the comb. They're learning how to find out who's on it and what's there. So you have to have a certain amount of hands-on experience, and this is one way of getting it at a field day after a short course.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely a wonderful photograph, and it shows you just how personal it becomes between human and bee. I'm going to use singular for both of that, so that you actually are really developing a relationship with that hive and almost possibly with the queen herself. Now, these are other activities and ways that people can come involved. And looking at this as a small business, are there other businesses related to beekeeping and people actually don't even have bees?
For the most part, even if they have a small business on the side, they are beekeepers also. The
Mhm.
picture you're looking at is building woodenware, so it's building a bee box. So it's something that we teach our new beekeepers is how to build the equipment properly and where you get your equipment from. Sometimes it's from actual wood shops,
Mhm.
and they may not be beekeepers, but for the most part they are, because they know what we're looking for and what we need.
I see. Okay, so it's very important that they learn every aspect as far as the beekeeping is concerned. Now, looking at these different hives, I notice that you have some of these stacked. So, what are we looking at here, and what is the activity going on around the bees themselves?
The bees are basically acting the way they're supposed to. They're going out, finding food, and bringing it back into their boxes. You're looking at different kinds of boxes because they're different kinds of hives. The burnt orange small boxes on the top are what are called splits, which means that we're making brand new queens out of those boxes. So they have a brand new queen, and it's just developing as a colony right now. So it's small, and it will be built up over the summer. And as it builds up, it'll move from a smaller box to a medium-sized box to a larger box with time. So this is a healthy apiary of a beekeeper.
Mhm. Now, looking at the small box, the orange, how do you identify the queen, and how do you get her to move into this box?
You identify the queen because you learn how to tell her differently from the other bees. She
Mhm.
moves different, she looks different.
Mhm.
And we actually move her on a frame into that box, along with the proper number of attendants, so worker bees. So
Mhm.
you have to have a mixture of bees in order to start a small colony. This is called a nucleus colony that
Mhm.
will eventually grow to be a bigger colony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, the queen bee lays 15 to 2,000 eggs a day.
Mm.
She can make a lot of bees.
Yeah. And that is a lot of collection as far as feeding that particular colony. This is a great
Yes.
photograph. So, what are we seeing here? What is the dynamic of this photograph? And are these experienced? Are these new beekeepers? And either what do they already know, or what are they learning about taking care of the bees?
The person on the right is the experienced beekeeper. The
Mhm.
person on the left is the new beekeeper. And this is part of a mentoring activity. And to mentor a new beekeeper, you take them through your hives and you show them and allow them to show you what they've learned.
Mhm.
Going through a beehive is very relaxing. It's done in a very calm way. And this is a very calm picture of a calm activity.
Mm. Yeah, and it's just really amazing, Kim, that you have people, as you said, there's thousands of stinging insects and all this. Yet at the same time, everything is calm, and I've been to some of these. It's quite gentle. And so, in approaching the bees, how do you keep them calm so they allow you to do all this activity around their home, their queen, and also with their food?
It is important that the beekeeper establish how calm it is going into a hive. No rapid movements, you don't bang things, you don't shake things up. And for the most part, honeybees are not aggressive. They defend themselves, they defend their food, but they are not aggressive creatures. And you just slowly move and you slowly do what you need to do when you're in the hive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is during a happy time of the year. There's a lot of nectar sources out. You can see new things in bloom.
Mm-hmm.
And so the bees are just busy collecting as much food as they possibly can during the time of good, plentiful forage.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a great photograph. This is the end of the day. So tell us a little bit about this end of the day and how must you be feeling when you're having this interaction with all these bees?
Okay, this picture are the mentees that I had this year, actually. They had just finished pulling all of the honey supers off of the hives. And it is a wonderful shot of just the happiness that they have. They've had a great experience going through the hives that day, and it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very enjoyable to be around people who also enjoy the honeybees.
Mm-hmm. But I just think this is such a pristine shot. It's almost like the higher being is beaming down on you and allowing you to interact in nature this way. So this is the last question. It's about 20 seconds. How does it really feel to have this intimate relationship with the bees and allowing nature to continue its cycle?
There's a sense of awe and wonder every time you open up a box. The smells, the scents, the sounds, and you're amazed at the beauty of this creature and what it can do for you and what you can do for it. It's magic.
Yeah. And I think having a cadre like this, people that you're really becoming close to and good friends with, is the same sensation, the same feeling you have for the other humans, just as you have for the bees. Thank you. This is Kimberly Mahalik. She's president of the Maryland State Beekeepers Association. Thank you as we continue to create the Emerald Planet. We're talking about bees and the importance of bees. And of course, to take care of bees, we have to have beekeepers. And they're very important to society as well as to the bees, but also to propagate plants, fruits and vegetables, and to produce food for all living beings on planet Earth. We have a new beekeeper who's going to be talking about why he is taking his time and effort and actually investing in having his own business as a new beekeeper. This is Baldwin G. Williams Sr. He is a new beekeeper, and he's a member of the Maryland State Beekeepers Association. And we're going to be talking about what he's learning and growing and why he wants to be involved. Baldwin, welcome to the EmeraldPlanet TV.
Thank you, Dr. Sam, for inviting me.
We're very glad to have you here. Anyone that's from Jamaica is going to be a friend of mine because, as you know, I lived in Jamaica, did my doctoral research there. So I just love Jamaica and Jamaicans, and it's great to hear your lovely accent. But tell us why you've become a member of the Maryland State Beekeepers Association.
Yes, thank you for asking, Sam. But I was always interested in beekeeping from a little boy. However, I come to understand that, pollinators are on the decline, and I'm an avid gardener. So I just wanted to use the bees' industriousness to help me with pollinating my plants. And secondly, the premium I get from having the honey they produce. And thirdly, I just want to share with my neighbors and community the benefits of beekeeping.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, looking at the hives that you have here, these are the images that you sent to us. Tell us a little bit about the beehives themselves and why are they shaped this way?
Okay. Yes, thank you for asking, Sam. Yeah, those are standard, what you'd call hive boxes that the bees are housed in. And they are stacked vertical. On the bottom, you always have the brood boxes where, you know, the queen and all the workers, they congregate. And then above, you'll have the boxes for the honey, to store the honeys. So we engage in several protective mechanisms, and those tiles that are hung on top was placed there just to prevent the other, you know, strange bees from invading the hive. So we hung those tiles and allow water to drip down to the front of the hives, and that will discourage, you know, raiders from coming in to maul the bees and also to rob the honey.
Right. Now, we're going to be talking about the beekeeping uniform. This is the first time we've ever shown this on EmeraldPlanet TV. So we're going to take some time and go through this, each piece and the paraphernalia that you use as far as the beekeeping. But tell us a little bit about the suit and the gloves. And of course, you have the helmet as well. Why is all this so important in taking good care of bees?
Yes, certainly. The bees are creatures, you know, that are very, very serious about what they do, and in so doing, they protect themselves because they know that they produce, you know, valuable, you know, products, the honey, and also their young ones. So they become very defensive whenever they sense that someone is disturbing them. So as beekeepers, you know, you protect yourselves with a full suit of clothing, and this bee suit is designed, you know, from a material that bees are not easily able to puncture the material to get onto your skin. So on the starting from the head down, you know, you're sort of given a crown, a netted crown, you know, where, you know, you're able to see through the front, you know, which is made of mesh. And normally you wear a cap underneath there, so you are protected and at the same time comfortable. And in so doing, you're, you know, protecting yourself, and also for the most part, you know, protecting the bees, because you'll be able to more comfortable to work in their environment. And in so doing, you know, you are able to do what you're supposed to do in the time allotted, and without being stung.
Yeah. Now, looking at these gloves, they look quite thick and they look like they're made out of leather, and they're going to actually go up your arm over your wrist. So, what is the material? If I'm a little bit off on that, but at the same time, why this design for the glove?
Yes, it is the palms of the glove are made from leather, mainly, you know, goat skin leather, and it stretches from your palm up to about your elbow, and it gives you added protection because it covers the sleeves of the suit, and you're able to flex your arm up and down, and being able to manipulate. You know, the gloves are thin enough so that you can manipulate, you know, your fingers, and also either lift out the frames or lift the box, you know, and being able to securely move them from one location to the other. So it's just a way of added layer protection, and also to make you fairly comfortable.
I see. Okay. Now, looking at the hive itself, tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here. And again, go back to the design of this and why.
Yes, yes. On the very bottom of the hive, the boxes are sitting on a foundation, and between the box and the hive is space that the bee get to enter, the boxes. Now inside the boxes are frames, and insofar as the hive is concerned, if you're starting off, you generally start with a nucleus, where you have the queen and their supporters,
Right.
And then as the queen produce young bees, then you just had additional frames to house them. Now on top of the boxes, the upper lid or cover, that is designed to, first of all, protect the boxes from inclement weather. And there is underneath, there is just a small space there for ventilation. Now if you look on the front of the hive, sometimes you allow more bees to enter or restrict bees from entering, and in cases where you think your hive is being robbed by marauding bees, you restrict the entrance, so that encroachers, won't overwhelm your hive.
Now, looking at this, the frames, you were talking about the frames. What are the frames used for, Baldwin?
Yes, the frames are used to basically allow the bees to attach the honeycomb, the frames wax foundation, and the bees will use those foundation to attach the comb, and inside the comb, would be where the hair laid, and eventually you have new bees being formed, and they'll move on to cones then to lay their wax foundation, and then fill those little gaps with honey eventually.
Okay, all right. Now we're looking down into it. You see the slats in between the openings. So why the openings in between these slats, and how does this actually allow the bees to attach the honey or to protect themselves?
Yes, thank you for asking that. And in the language of beekeeping, you hear about bee spaces, and so these frames are lined, such that bees can easily move up or down or across the hive box, and you don't want too much space, because in the time when they're going to be building honey, they will build those honeycomb to fit the spaces available. And if you have too much space, you're going to find the honeycomb being deformed, and it's going to be a nightmare to manage those hives. So the original designers, they have tested these size of the frame and the spacing, so that as beekeepers, you can pretty well perform very good management practices, and having the bees comfortable and you being able to access them.
Okay, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, what is this all about? Easy Check.
Yeah, this is an easy check used for just a receptacle used for monitoring your varroa mite population. So you would sample, take a representative sample of your hive population, and then you encase them in a liquid, and you shake the container, and whatever mites are attached to the bees will fall off, right? And then you'll be able to count your level of infestation. And your level of infestation now will determine whether or not you want to mitigate your mite population. So it is a standard method of managing and maintaining and making sure that your beehive isn't overrun by these dangerous varroa mites.
Okay, we're going to go through these very quickly, but I wanted to jump over to this. Why is this so important? And we're running out of time, Baldwin. So be very quick about.
Yes, this is
one last question.
Yes, this is a smoker, and it is the logic behind it is that bees, by nature of them evolving over these many years, are sensitive to smoke, and whenever they encounter smoke, it sends off a sort of alarm to them that they engorge honey, and a sort of protective mechanism. So when you smoke your hive, you're distracting them. And when they are distracted, you're able to work more comfortably around them.
I see. Last question. Why do you want to be a beekeeper? And we got to be quick. You got about 15 seconds.
Yes. Yes. I care about the environment just to increase the population load and make sure that our food, because a third of our food is from pollinators. So we get the benefits of pollination and then get the benefits of the food, the honey they provide.
That's fantastic. This is Baldwin G. Williams, Sr. He's a new beekeeper, member of the Maryland State Beekeepers Association. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. We're talking about beekeepers and state associations that relate to beekeepers. And beekeeping can be something that you do in your own backyard, and many people have done it in the past. Actually, it's increasing again. But also there are commercial beekeepers that actually are using their hives as pollination services for various agriculturalists, whether it's for gardening, fruit trees, field crops, gardens, whatever it may be. We're going to introduce you to Fred Smith. He's the first vice president of the Maryland State Beekeepers Association, and he's a third generation beekeeper. So we'll have to explore that a little bit. And this is about commercial beekeeping. And Fred, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We're glad to have you. Looking at the Maryland State Association of Beekeepers, why is it so important to a beekeeper like you? You're third generation, so your family knows how to take care of bees, how to be involved commercially in beekeeping. Why the state association, of which you're the first vice president?
Well, being the vice president, a member of the association, helps you to learn more things and anything that's new. Beekeeping has changed so much over the years. I mean, when I was a kid, we just sent them out in the yard and the field. We didn't have to do anything to them. But now there's so many different things that are combating against them, and we need to learn things. And through the clubs, that's where you learn to find out the new things.
That's fantastic. Now, looking at this scene here, we have a number, I guess these are possibly new beekeepers or people that are being introduced to it. We have a very handsome person in the middle with the beekeeping helmet and mask on. Why is it so important to have new people coming into beekeeping, even if they're doing it in their backyard, and possibly in the future would become, like you, commercial beekeepers?
Well, there's always we always want new people to start up beekeeping and learn the proper way. And becoming a member of the club, your local club or the state club, you can learn more from things like that and how to handle the hives and what to do with them and how to keep them alive.
Now, this is a very diverse group that we're looking at here, from different backgrounds, looks like different nationalities, male, female. Why do you think there's so many people interested in beekeeping these days?
Well, it's something that everybody's hearing about the bees, how they're dying off, and we're losing so many of them in the wild, that everybody wants to help out and start beekeeping and get a
Mhm.
hive and start helping out with everything.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fantastic. What's going on here? What are we looking at, and what's the discussion?
Well, they wanted to see what the queen looked like, and so I was taking them and looking in the hives and showing them how to find the queen and what how the what kind of condition the hive was in by looking at the frames and the brood and the bees.
Hmm. Now, I don't see the traditional beekeeping uniform and outfit on, or the helmet. So you
Yeah.
must be very comfortable with these bees, and they're comfortable with you.
Yes, you learn our hives in the yards. You learn which yards are good and which yards are mean. So we know which ones are that you can. I can work. Sometimes I get so hot, take my shirt off, but sometimes you have to guard up really good. So it depends on the day and the condition, the weather, and everything like that.
I see. So it's a great diversity as far as what you're doing. Now, looking
Yes.
at your truck and how it's outfitted, you have all these hives in the back. What
Mhm.
are you going off to do with so many hives and a truck that looks like it's actually made for transporting beehives?
Well, yeah, we get it specially made for that and put the net on it to keep them in. Um, we only move the bees at night, and this is we're taking them into a watermelon field in Delaware. We do a lot of rental for watermelons and cantaloupes and things like that, and on the Eastern Shore. And that's where we were at, getting ready to unload that truck.
Hmm. Now, we understand that bees are so precious, and there's such a demand that actually people are really going out at night and actually stealing beehives. And
Yeah.
how do you protect yourself so that people do not have a chance to take these and remove your own property?
Well, we've had to set up webcams at a lot of our yards. Whenever we rent them out down the Eastern Shore, the people that rent them from us, we they guarantee that they'll take care of them and make sure that nothing's happened to them. And if something does happen to them, they will compensate us for that.
Hmm. Hmm.
We've had several that this past year stolen right here in the local Hagerstown area.
That's just amazing me as somebody go out and grab a hold of a beehive and yeah, want to take it
Yeah,
away. So it may mean that these are actually professional beekeepers that are doing this.
right.
But looking at this old bus, why use a bus for the beehive?
That's that's something that doesn't happen very often. We use a single hive, and it's an old bus, and we it's an orchard in West Virginia where we have problems with bears. So the orchard just got this old bus that they transport the workers back and forth in, and we put a hive in each window, and that's how we keep them away from the bears in the springtime.
Hmm, that's just amazing. Now, looking at you're out in the fields, look like you're offloading. Tell us what the dynamic of this is, and how do you keep the bees quiet so that actually you can move them off the truck, where they need to be, and not upset the bees, not destroy
Right.
the hive or honey, and certainly not to get stung yourself.
Well, we do everything by hand. Most commercial beekeepers are palletized, but we haven't did that yet. But we unload them by hand, and we have to do it either in the late evening when the bees stop flying, and we load it up and put the net on, and then we drive at night and deliver it and drop them off in the morning when it's getting daylight. That's that way you collect all the bees. They go back in the hive every night.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, one question, I'm going to stay right here for just a minute. So the bees are flying around, they're gathering the pollen, they're making the honey wherever they are, and then you take them 50 miles away. So does that disturb the bees, and how do they know where to start collecting again, or is they have a natural honing device built in, so to speak, by nature, that you can transport them anywhere and they can begin to function very nicely wherever they may be going?
That's correct. They do. They know they're made by like that. They know exactly which hive they came out of when after you move them and go back to the same hive. It's very they're incredible.
Mm.
Yep.
Now,
That's
this is just bees are amazing. Tell us what we're looking at here. What's the dynamic of this photograph?
um that's our lift on the back of the truck. We're unloading some hives down on the Eastern Shore, in this, and we have a lift where you put the hives on, it goes down. And then I think it's my son. It's we smoke them. There's a smoker there. We smoke them before we unload them, and that way it calms them down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We
So
can haul
that
about 90.
smoking is using the smoke really seems to be very important, both for the protection of the bees and humans as well. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it calms them down a lot. That we can work with them a lot better when we're moving them around.
Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, bees are becoming more and more valuable. So you certainly you don't want to hurt them just by the nature of it, but at the same time, as they really are becoming a valuable asset as far as agriculture and gardening is concerned.
Yeah.
Why the configuration here? We do see the pallets under these. Tell us a little bit about what's happening here.
Well, this is a field of about 80 acres of watermelons that we set them in, and the farmer brings the pallets in for us and sets them down wherever he wants the hive set at, and we set them all usually together like that, and at one end of the field, and the bees will pollinate. They go so far they can pollinate the watermelons that way. They're right next to the field.
Now, did you say 80 acres? 80?
Yes, yes. For watermelons, there's one hive per acre, and this year we rented about 700 on Eastern Shore. We had one customer that got 500 hives.
That's amazing. How many total hives do you actually have?
Oh, around 600 to 700. It goes up and down. We lose some. We had some get hit by a tractor this year that tore them up. But up and down around 700 this year though.
Okay, all right, that's a good number. Now this is setting out in the middle of the field, and so you're putting it on a wagon. So how do you configure the boxes so the bees can easily get in and out, and you're not obstructing them as far as getting back home after they load up with the pollen, and they want to return?
Well, you can see all their entrances are facing out towards the field. The whole way around the trailer, it's like that. This is a field of cucumbers, and we leave them in there for about 2 weeks, and then we take them out. That's all they need for pollination. The watermelons, they have to stay there all summer, like 5 months. It's a long time.
Now, how do you know the length, Fred, as far as how long you need? Your cucumbers, you say for a couple of weeks. The watermelons is all summer. How do you know the length? Is that the flowering season, or how do you determine that?
Well, the cucumbers, they have the farmer only wants them there for a while because they pick them when they're very small, so for pickles or things like that, and then they don't need them anymore. They tear the field up. But the watermelons, they bloom and they pick a crop. The farmer will pick a crop, and then they keep producing more watermelons. Throughout the summer. They'll keep picking crops, and so they need pollination through the summer.
So you can contract these hives then for a very short period of time, or again, like for a whole growing season then?
Season, yeah. Yes.
I see. Now, this is an amazing photograph. What are the plants that they're pollinating? And this is an incredible number of hives.
Yes. That's a field of blueberries up in New Jersey. We take them there in New Jersey. We set them right on the ground, and then they stay there about 3 weeks in the blueberries, and we get them out of there. But it's a big field right there, so we need a lot of hives.
Yeah, this is just amazing, and it's amazing that you actually can manage that number of hives. Now, this is setting out in water. It was so interesting to have these hives, standing in water. Is this a bad rain event, or is there purpose to this?
That's a bad rain event down on the Eastern Shore. These are sitting there for cantaloupes and watermelon also, and the farmer set them at the wrong place, so some of them even drowned. We lost some of those hives there, and it was very hard getting them out of there. It was a bad rainy season in the spring. That was this year.
Right. Yeah. Now this is more hives and sitting out in the farmers' fields. This is probably a little better situation, but are these actually swarming?
No, it's very hot out, and there's a lot of bees in the hive, and they will beard out to come out in the front of the hive and set the cool off, and that's why there's a lot of bees in the hive.
They're really smart creatures, aren't they?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we're out of time, and last quick question: what are people learning? Is it so important to have beekeepers? And we got only about 20 seconds to do that.
Well, it's important to have beekeepers. Well, if we wouldn't have bees, we wouldn't be eating a lot of vegetables and fruits. I mean, we have to keep them alive, and the more backyard beekeepers you have, the better it is too for pollinating gardens and things like that. Yeah, we can set them anywhere you can.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, this is Fred Smith. He's first vice president, Maryland State Beekeepers Association, third generation beekeeper. That's a long time. Thank you, Fred, for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.